Government corruption has never been more prevalent or caused more harm. It's why extremism is on the rise. It's why the financial gap between the haves and have-nots has never been wider. And it's why our planet is at risk of an extinction level tragedy. That's why I need your help to keep exposing the truth about the rot on both sides of the aisle. Become a supporter or a friend of the show today by clicking on the coffee link in the description box below. Friends of the show join me on a Zoom hangout once a month, and you guys can ask me any questions you want, and I can get to know you better. But the most important reason to help is to keep the show alive. Together, we can and will save our country and our planet. Thanks in advance and enjoy the show. Hey everyone, welcome to the show. So last night's January 6th hearing contained a lot of information we already knew, but there were a couple of bombshells dropped. So there were 2 in-person witnesses, and then there were numerous video clips of probably more than a dozen witnesses who were interviewed by the investigators. So here are the bombshells. First, the Pentagon had to reach out to Donald Trump to try to get him to okay them taking action regarding the violence at the Capitol. Trump refused to speak with them, so White House counsel Pat Cipollone had to take the call. In fact, Deputy Counsel Eric Hirschman told Cipollone, quote, "The president doesn't want anything done." Then we also discovered that Trump was informed about the insurrection. He was informed about the mob and the violence within 15 minutes of the time that he got off the stage at his rally. He did nothing. He sat, he watched coverage on Fox News, he called Republican lawmakers, he talked to Rudy Giuliani twice, and he wouldn't allow the presidential photographer into the room with him. So he knew what he was doing was wrong, or rather what he was not doing was wrong. We also saw video outtakes of Trump's video that he released on January 7th. And in that video, he refused to say the phrase, quote, "the election is over." So they wrote the script for him. He refused to say that part. In addition, we heard clips from an interview with a White House security official who chose to remain anonymous. They fear retribution, of course. And it was the first time we heard that the Secret Service agents guarding Mike Pence were so afraid for their own lives that they started calling their loved ones to say goodbye. You know, the same Secret Service that now seemingly is covering up for Trump. The same Secret Service that scrubbed all of their text messages. And these are text messages that they were told 3 separate times to back up the data before this reset. The security official also said that they were all concerned about Trump leading the march to the Capitol because they knew that it would no longer be considered a protest protected by the First Amendment. He said something like, you know, call it a coup or an insurrection or whatever, but it would no longer be a protest. And there were also new witnesses who corroborated the fact that Trump threw that temper tantrum in the car when he was told that he couldn't go to the Capitol. And numerous Trump officials admitted that they never once heard Trump reaching out to law enforcement or the military to stop the attack. So clear evidence of dereliction of duty. Likewise, they all said that they were all pushing him to make a statement to tell everyone to go home. Those 2 facts were reiterated over and over again by in-person witnesses as well as the recorded witnesses. And it was proven with floor plans and witness testimony that Trump could have been on camera in less than 60 seconds if he wanted to be. And when he was finally talked into just posting a tweet, Kayleigh McEnany admitted to Sarah Matthews that he didn't want to include the word peace. So Ivanka convinced him to instead use the phrase, "stay peaceful." Another theme that was repeated throughout the hearing over and over again was everyone's disgust with his tweet about Mike Pence. Many said that it was the exact opposite of what was needed. It was akin to throwing gasoline on the fire because they all knew at that point, including Trump, that Pence's life was already in danger. And the 2 in-person witnesses, Matthew Pottinger and Sarah Matthews, each said that they resigned on January 6th due to Trump's inaction, also because of his tweet about Pence and because of the video that he made, where he continued to push the lie. You know, Matthews who was the deputy press secretary and a special assistant to Trump, she said she knew she was going to be called upon to defend Trump's video, saying that he loved them, and she said this was indefensible. That was the word she used. She also noted that he continued to push the lie about the stolen election. She disagreed with that. She called it a lie. And multiple people confirmed that when Trump was recording the video on January 6th, he refused to read from the script. He said basically what he wanted to say, just did not follow the script at all that they had written for him. The committee also did a really good job of humiliating members of the greedy, oppressive party. They played video clips and audio clips of them talking and acting really tough on January 6th. So, everyone can see now the juxtaposition. They can see how they've now caved and bent the knee to the ex-sociopath in chief. The committee also shared a bunch of text messages from a multitude of people who wanted him to stop the violence. And they shared texts between Trump allies Tim Murtaugh and Matthew Walking that were quite stunning, but not for the reason that everybody else thought, at least in my mind. On January 9th, Murtaugh wrote that Trump's failure to acknowledge the death of Officer Brian Sicknick, remember, he was the one who was sprayed with a chemical on the 6th, and then he died. He called it, quote, shitty that Trump didn't say anything about it. Walking then replied and said that it was, quote, enraging, and, quote, everything he said about supporting law enforcement was a lie. Then Murtaugh responded with, quote, you know what that is, of course. If he acknowledged the dead cop, he'd be implicitly faulting the mob, and he won't do that because they're his people. And he would also be close to acknowledging that what he lit at the rally got out of control. No way he acknowledges something that could ultimately be called his fault. No way. Well, no shit, Sherlock. I call these texts stunning, not because of the content, but because of what it reveals about the authors. It's as if these people have been in a coma for the better part of the decade. They still believed that Trump meant what he said about law enforcement. They still believe what Trump said about anything, which is unreal. That is a stunning revelation to find that these grown-ass men were so completely and totally gullible that they had no idea who Trump really was. They actually thought that he gave a damn about something other than himself. I always just assumed they all knew that Trump was full of shit, but they cravenly went along with it anyway because they wanted what they wanted and he was going to deliver it for them. I didn't think that they actually bought it, that they actually fell for his shtick. It's really pathetic and embarrassing.